So when we designing an AI system, one of the problem we might need to face is about cost. Because the stronger the model is, the more expensive it will be. And cheaper model might not have enough quality for our problems. So because of that, the real question is, do we have any way to using a best, the high tier quality model, but in an optimized way, like less price? The answer is yes in some cases. Actually, some provider will reduce the price, like having a discount for us when using the batch processing. So in this video, we gonna talk about a batch processing system with the AI stuff, and we will go through like what is batch processing, how can we design the system using that method, and then what is the trade-off when using that method compared to the original one. So let's get started. Before moving forward, we need to understand what is batch processing in the AI provider. Normally, when we're trying to send a request to the AI service, it's gonna process that request and then responds to us in maybe some seconds or minutes, but usually it will respond us immediately. But for batch processing, it's gonna be quite different. We're gonna have like a multiple job over here. That's the same as a request. We want to merge it, to group it to one batch, and we're gonna send that to the AI provider and getting the batch ID. After that, the provider will arrange the resources, the computation to process this batch for us. And after it's completed, our system need to fetch the batch result and getting it back and map the result to the original job. So how it can reduce the price is because the provider have a way and have time to optimize our request, our job, the best way possible. So that's why like in some provider, they might reduce like 50% of the price, like the OpenAI or Gemini or Claude. It's very good in some cases. But of course, not every case we can use this method because as you can see here, the batch processing stuff sometimes can take half of a day or 24 hours to process completely. So it's not suitable for every case. But if it's work, it will be very good. We will have a very good price. So how can we design based on batch processing AI work? So firstly, we will have the user or internal system. It's gonna send a request or job to our API service over here. And after that, we will store those jobs into the database or blob storage if it have any documentation. And another thing that we need is a cron job. That's solving the batch scheduler stuff, that's sending the batch to the provider for us. And another component which is gonna process the result later when the batch is completed. So let's go into detail how the flow works. So firstly, we're gonna have a user or internal system that's sending the request to us, which contains the jobs, maybe a message or a documentation that we need to process. And to process that job, we need the API service over here. And then we are gonna process the data and storing the job to the database or blob storage with the status is pending. We need this status later to tracking the status of the job. Okay, so the second step is after we having all the job, we're gonna have another cron job, which is a batch scheduler that will periodically sending the batch to the provider. So what it does is first scanning all the job with status pending, and then we are gonna group them to one or multiple batch. and then send that batch to the AI provider, and then getting the batch ID. After we having the batch ID, we will storing that back to the database as a reference later, so we can like mapping the result to a specific batch and job. Then the last step, we gonna have like another batch result service over here, which is responsible for processing the result. So in order to receiving the result from provider, we have two ways. One way is we can have a webhook from the provider that's sending like a notification to our system to notify which batch is completed, and then we can use that batch ID to fetching the result. But there's some provider that doesn't support webhook, so we kind of do something like a cron job that periodically we're gonna check the database to see any like pending batch, and then using the batch ID to fetching the batch result, the batch status, to see if it's completed or not. If it's complete, we will then fetching the result and then mapping the data back. Or if it's not, then we still let it there and continue doing another job. So what if the provider fail to processing our job, or it responds with the wrong data format? What should we do then? I think in that case, we still need to like retrying the job, right? So because of that, I think we still need to like keeping the job status as pending, and then we're gonna have another like property to keeping track of how many fail it has, like fail count, so that every time it fail, we're gonna keeping track of this number, and we're gonna keep like retrying this job later and later to a specific number, so we can like if it's failed too much, we're gonna lead it to have a failed status later, because in that case we might need to check it. So how can we scale this kind of system? Like in this scenario, we have all of the component separate nicely over here. So we have, for example, when we want to create more job, we can easily scale the API service on the database. When we want to send like more batch to AI provider, we can scale this as well. But we need to take into account, because some provider limit how many batch we can send each hour, and the batch size as well. So we need to considering that stuff. For resolving processing the batch result, we can scale horizontally as well if we need to. This kind of system, in my opinion, is quite easy to scale, because all components are already separate for their flow, their logic. So batch processing are quite useful for a case when we don't need a real-time API. It can handle all of the AI job in the background for us. It can reduce lots of cost as well. And but in this scenario, we need to handle the retry logic or fail logic or the rate limit from the AI provider. It's not the fit for all of the case, but where if it will be very good. So I hope you find some value in my video.